If I were to ask you when Canada became a country, you would likely say July 1st, 1867, and you'd be correct. Yes, that is when we became a country. However, if that would be your answer to when did Canada become independent, you would be wrong. Canada became independent from the United Kingdom on the 17th of April, 1982, and I'm going to explain why exactly that is. So you see, in 1867, the British North American Act was passed, which basically said, okay, there's going to be a new country that is kind of, sort of independent from Britain, but also not. It established it as a dominion. So the Dominion of Canada, which would include four former British provinces: Canada West, or Ontario, Canada East, which is now Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. And then years and years and years go by. It's 1949. We have all the provinces. But we're going to actually have to step back because, well, 1949 is a little far into the future from 1867. So there was an imperial conference in 1926 that included the leaders of all dominions and representatives from India, which then included Burma, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and whatsoever, led to the eventual enactment of the Statute of Westminster. The Statute of Westminster isn't really too big, although at the time I'm sure people thought it was. Following the British North American Act, any law that wanted to be passed in Canada would have to go through the House of Commons, which makes sense. Obviously, that's how we get our laws today. But not just the House of Commons of Canada, also the House of Commons of the United Kingdom. A lot of people were obviously like, yo, what the heck? Okay, we can keep their king or their queen, but come on, we've got to be able to make our own laws independently. And that's what the Statute of Westminster basically did. It limited the legislative authority of the British Parliament over Canada, although one thing it did not limit was the power of Canadian amendments. So, just like the United States, Canada has the ability to change or amend their constitution, our constitution, and we have done it several times. However, before, because of this Westminster Act, Britain had to actually also pass the Canadian House of Commons amendment. Could you imagine just being a British parliamentarian, like, okay, I'm going to my work, concerned for the everyday British citizen, and they're like, yo, you gotta vote on this Canadian amendment. Like, who cares? Just give it to us. So, when did Britain release control of Canada? You could argue never, but I'm not going to be one of those people. It was on April 17th, 1982. Did you not watch the first 30 seconds? Anyways, so how that happened is that our Prime Minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, went to Queen Elizabeth II and through the British Parliament. Of course, we had to do our amendments there, which would give Canada full sovereignty. There was nothing that had to go through the British Parliament at all, and Canada and Canadian politicians could do whatever they wanted in Canada without any request of the Queen. And the Queen signed that, and it went through the British Parliament, probably because of British parliamentarians getting bored of voting on Canadian laws that had no effects over them or their members, the people that they were representing. So, yeah, that's basically how Canada got its full legal and legislative independence from Britain. Although we still can't elect our head of state, and we can't elect our Senate either. Are we even really a free country at this point? Okay, obviously I'm joking at that point, but I hope I actually taught you something here about how Canada is technically, you could argue, only 40 years old. That doesn't mean Canada Day is just irrelevant. You can obviously do whatever you want on July 1st. But I think we should also be celebrating April 17th a lot more than most Canadians do. They look at their calendar, April 17th, oh, that's cool. April 17th is a big day in this country, and I do think that it should be remembered as such, and not just some day on the calendar.